Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I'm your host, Monica. We're back again. New topic, new week, new guest like we do every single week. And this week, we have a returning guest with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves to you guys.
Hi, I am Evasive, and that is my catchphrase. I'm a YouTuber. My main thing is forcing other people to watch bad movies for me and make fun of them so I can turn it into a video essay and pay my rent.
Lovely. We'd love to see it. Yay! Thank you so much, Evasive, for coming back on the pod. We're so happy to have you. So, today, guys, we're actually going to be diving into an older movie today. We decided to take a look at a Netflix film that came out in 2024 that some of you may have seen, some of you may have heard of. It's called Uglies, starring Joey King. But before we dive into Uglies, we're going to start with our first segment, which is Media Mania, where we talk about movies and TV shows, entertainment news, new releases, and the like. And there was one piece of news that I saw on Deadline today that I was very interested in that I wanted to discuss. And apparently, Daniel Craig possibly is going to be joining the Chronicles of Narnia movie with Greta Gerwig, who is the director of the new film. So I am very interested to see if this is actually going to happen. Of course, sources stress that this may or may not happen because he is not fully on board, but they do know that he has been given an offer. So it is likely that he will say yes to this. And I do find it interesting that he may be in this movie because he already dropped out of Sergeant Rock. It was a DC movie that Luca Guadagnino was directing. And, he was also in Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, which didn't do very well in the box office and during award season. So I'm wondering if he's kind of trying to hedge his bets with another director to see if that's going to be more worth his while. Because we also see that Amazon has kind of taken ownership of the Bond franchise. And he is currently James Bond. Maybe he's not. I would have to double check and see. But it seems like he's trying to shift in a different direction in his career. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Evasive. What do you think about that?
I mean, okay, so first of all, I didn't even know that they were bringing back Chronicles of Narnia. It makes sense. Like, it's been like, what? How long ago was Prince Caspian? That was in like 2009? 2008?
So, yeah.
It's been my understanding. I never read Chronicles of Narnia as a kid, but it was always my understanding that like the books and the movies, like the movies didn't finish the story. Like there's a lot more story, and I'm wondering, first of all, like why they're doing it as a movie series instead of doing it like as a TV series. But I guess but if it's Netflix, I'm like, is this not going to be in theaters? Like. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but Daniel Craig, his last James Bond movie was 2021, and that was his last movie. That was his end. So I'm just wondering who he's gonna play. Did they say in this article who he's gonna play?
No, because the details around the Chronicles of Narnia movie are scant. Is the word that they use?
It's not going to come out for a couple years at least. Then
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and it looks like Greta Gerwig is just kind of trying to find her cast, because I think a lot of directors, when they're given such a big project, of course they're trying to find household name actors to attach to a project. That way people, gain some kind of interest in it. That way when it does come out, they want to go see it, or they're more likely to see it. So who he's going to play is not known yet, but I don't know if he's going to play Voice the Lion, or if he's going to be playing the Centaur Man, or it could be possible.
It also says that Charlie XCX was in talks for the role of the White Witch. That would be awesome. Charlie XCX is the White Witch. That would be so iconic. There's a lot of people who would watch it just for her.
Yeah, I do think that the trend of having I love seeing musicians becoming actors, because SZA in One of Them Days was a lot of fun. So I feel like Charlie XCX would be amazing in a TV show, a movie. So Chronicles of Narnia, that seems like a good fit for her.
That's just such a good role for her.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I Daniel Craig can play whoever. I kind of hope Daniel Craig plays the satyr, Tumnus. I want to see that. I just feel like it was really great when what's his name? Hugh Grant played an Oompa Loompa in Wonka. I feel like that's really where we need to go. Take the most handsome actors in Hollywood
Yeah.
and give them roles where they just are not handsome at all.
Yeah, humble them.
Exactly. We need
Yes.
to have Timothy Chalamet needs to play like some kind of disgusting, like gross monster in a movie. Stop, we all know they're hot. Like
Yeah.
cast them against type. That's why it was so shocking to see Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah. That's true. I feel like Lee Pace, he's someone that I find very attractive. I would like to see him in this movie, you know, looking rugged, looking dirty, looking wretched. I wouldn't mind that.
Absolutely. I'm like, and I haven't seen like Chronicles of Narnia. I remember was obviously I was really young when it came out. I think that was one of the first movies I really remember seeing in theaters. Like I'd seen other things before that, but I vividly remember seeing Chronicles of Narnia because my family like went there when we were visiting my grandparents for like Christmas or whatever time of year that was. The movie came out. So I would love to see like a new version of that because I don't even really remember the original.
Yeah, I am interested, like you said, to see where the movies will start off because there are a lot of books in the Chronicles of Narnia series. So I'm interested to see if it's going to be something like an adaptation of the first
Yeah.
book or they're going to start somewhere else.
So I was mistaken. They did like 3 movies originally, right?
They
And
did 3
there's
movies.
like 7 books.
Yeah, a lot of books. And
So
also,
like, did they originally plan to adapt the whole series and then people lost interest and they gave up after the 3rd one? Was that what happened?
I think that there's been the idea of a Chronicles of Narnia TV show that's been floating around for like many years, but it's one of those things you just kind of hear in passing, but it hasn't come into fruition. It's the same with like Wicked. Wicked was always meant to be like a movie or a TV show, and it wasn't until last year that like we finally saw a Wicked movie. So I feel like Chronicles of Narnia was always something that studios had in the backlog. Like we can make this into something if we like had nothing on the docket, you know. But a TV show was always the thing that they wanted to do,
Yeah. Well,
but
I'm seeing here that the BBC created a Chronicles of Narnia TV show from 1988 to 1990. It had 3 seasons, 18 episodes. But even that one, it looks like that only covered up to the 4th book. Like they never got past. It ended at the 4th book. So I guess to this day, like no one has made the whole series into. I guess they never did that with Series of Unfortunate Events either, right?
they had, I mean, the movies, and I think they had 2 different TV shows for a series of fortunate events. One was on Netflix. There was another one before it, but
That's the thing about book adaptations. That's what we're getting back to now. Is there's
yeah.
we're talking about Uglies, which is one of those books that I remember because it came out in like what the 2000s. Like when I was in school, I remember seeing like, it was one of those books, one of those like random YA books that like just a bunch of kids read, but nobody talked about because I feel like the books that like the most popular YA novels that I remember are like Percy Jackson,
Of course.
Harry Potter,
Yep.
um,
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games,
Yep. Divergent, of course.
yeah, Divergent. I feel like this was in that same kind of vein, but it just wasn't as popular as the others. But there was probably some like people, it probably had its fans. Like there has to be people out there around our age who are like, oh yeah, no, the Uglies. That's like a book series that I like grew up on. That was not me. I just remember seeing the title and like thinking nothing of it and never reading it.
Yeah, and I think there was a trend, especially in like 2000s or 2010s, where like young adult novels became very popular, but Hunger Games was such an international bestseller that of course it became a movie. So if any other book did well as well, but it's not like Hunger Games level, then they're just kind of like gonna ignore it. But I feel like studios, they always kind of keep an eye on like those bestseller books, and they're like, one of these, we're gonna make some money off of it. So it's Unwind. It was like, nope, it was Uglies now with this movie. And I know another book called Unwind was one that I read that was kind of interesting, and I had never seen anything about it being made to movie or anything, but it's always those books you kind of see in the library, and the librarians put it on their reading list, and you'll see people reading it. But
this, like, I read that this was supposed to be like in 2006 they sold the movie rights for Uglies. They sold the movie rights in 2006, so there were plans at least since then to make the movie. It just says here they sold the movie rights, and then there was like no word on it until 2020.
yeah, that does happen a lot with studios, because I just want to be like the first one in to have it and to hold it. That way, when there's finally like a market for it or some kind of interest, they're the first ones to jump on it, sell it to like streaming service, sell it to a production company, and then like make it happen.
Yeah, but they waited so long. Like, they definitely weren't banking on like fans of the book, really, to like, unless it was like a nostalgia thing. But they want this to be clearly like a new franchise with the story already written. They're not trying to like capitalize on the success of the book, because what success? Like, it seems like they're just like looking through like, what books do we have the rights to? In 2020, they were like, what books do we have the rights to that we haven't made movies yet? And that just seems like, because like I had forgotten this even existed until you like
brought it up.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing that's happening with Chronicles of Narnia, and I'm interested to see what's happened, what Greta Gerwig's going to do, because she is a very talented director and writer. So
yeah, well, as a Greta Gerwig production, I mean, they can just say from the director of Barbie.
Yeah.
And then they can put Charlie XCX as the White Witch, and it'll make $1 bajillion.
Right. But I think we have to kind of like wait and see what they bring. But of course we have faith. Yeah. But there was one other thing that I want to talk about, and it is South by Southwest, which is currently ongoing. I think it ends on the 15th. And one of the films that it seems to have gotten a lot of good reviews is Friendship, starring Tim Robinson, who is an SNL alum, which I did not know. I only knew him from a sketch show, I Think I Should Leave.
Well, he wasn't, I think he was a writer, but he was never like on. I watched SNL for years. He was definitely never on the show. I think he was a writer.
Okay. That makes sense. So it does look like Friendship is doing fairly well. At South by Southwest, which I think is, promising, because I think Tom Robinson is very funny. I think he has a very unique sense of comedy and a unique, like, comedic timing. And I Think I Should Leave You was one of those shows that I watched, and I was like, this is pretty good. Like, this is a pretty standout show. So I'm interested to see how this movie is going to play out in theaters, because I think that a lot of times like movies do well at festivals, and then when it opens up to like a broader audience, you kind of see like a different shift in like reviews or audience expectations or reactions. So I'm interested to see like what people will think. I'm curious to see if you're a fan of Tim Robinson, or if you are familiar with I Think You Should Leave, or if you're kind of interested in this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I Think You Should Leave is great. I've referenced it in videos before. I was going to say, to correct myself, he was on SNL. He was an actor for one season, and then he decided he wanted to be a writer instead and quit being an actor. So he was on in 2000, like the 2012 to 2013. So that's why I don't remember him, because that was a decade ago. I didn't even know that he had a movie, that he was working on a movie. That I'll definitely watch that when that hits. Whatever it ends up hitting. I just love, like, and there's been other, like, another Tim Heidecker. Whenever Tim Heidecker makes a movie, it's always like some bizarro, like, it's the same as like his style of comedy. And I think that I'm just interested to see what Tim Robinson's style is like as a movie because I've only ever seen him in like sketch comedy form. So like, how different is it when he's given like a full 90 minutes to tell a weirdo story?
Yeah.
I haven't read this review, but they gave it 4 stars, so gotta be pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Oh, it's an A24 movie.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anything here about it'll be released in cinemas on May 9th. Yeah, I'm gonna go see that.
Yeah, I think that creatives like Tim Robinson, like Nathan Fielder, John Wilson, they have that kind of comedy where it's just it's a touch awkward. It's a little bit cringy, but you have to kind of lean into the uncomfortable situation that you're in within like the scene or within the show because that lends to the comedy. You know, I love his show, The Rehearsal, Nathan Fielder's show, The Rehearsal on HBO Max, and I know it's coming back for season 2 because it's one of those shows where I watch and it's one of those concepts where I can't imagine what it's like to pitch that to someone, but when you see it kind of come into fruition, it's like, oh, this is really interesting and really cool. And I was nervous that it wouldn't get a season 2 because a lot of times streaming services don't like to make expensive shows, i.e. Sense8 and Netflix. Like, that was a big disappointment. But I'm glad that The Rehearsal got a second season because you want to see like these kind of stories that are unlike other shows being made and given a chance to like, you know, be recognized by their audience. And I feel like season 1 kind of went under the radar, so I'm hoping that season 2 takes off a little bit more, you know. Yeah.
I mean, it went on. I watched the first episode and I was like, I'm gonna watch the rest of this. Then it just became one of those things where I never came back to it.
Yeah.
So, like, once season 2, now that I know there's gonna be a season 2, I'll wait until it's like about to come out and then watch season 1 so I can like go right to season 2 after that.
I would suggest finishing season 1 because I think season 1 does kind of go off the rails a little bit, but it goes off the rails in such a Nathan Fielder way where it's like, yeah, he would do this. He would do a little too much, but it makes sense. It's very funny.
Yeah, no, I like have heard things about it, but it hasn't been spoiled for me yet. So I don't know how I've avoided spoilers so far. I feel like I'm pretty good at avoiding spoilers actually, but I am excited to watch it.
Awesome. And I know there are a couple other movies that are showing at South by Southwest, like The Accountant 2, which is a sequel to the Ben Affleck movie with Anna Kendrick.
Why are they? I saw that movie in theaters.
Yeah.
It was like I don't remember why. I think it was just like it was one of those things where like let's go see a movie. What's on? Like this, I guess. Like I don't know anybody out there who's like, yeah, like The Accountant 2. Like they really wanted that. But I guess that, and also like it's been 9 years.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna if it like flops, and they're gonna be like, oh, how could this flop? It's like how could it not flop? It's The Accountant 2. Like nobody wanted this.
I think it might do okay because it feels like just one of those movies where people just go to see it. Like you said, you go to movie theaters, you're like, what's playing right now in the movie theaters? The Accountant 2 is like, okay, I guess we'll watch that because I think the reason why they made a sequel is because they put it on Netflix and they saw that people liked it and they're like, oh, let's do a sequel. Because that's the same thing with Suits. Like, Suits went on Netflix, everybody was obsessed with Suits, and they're like, oh, let's do a revival.
Yeah, the problem is just that the first movie should have been a Netflix original from the beginning. Like I watched it in theaters. I remember barely anything except for a scene where Ben Affleck is like lifting weights in a sriracha t-shirt and then he like gets injured or something and starts screaming. I could be completely misremembering that. I remember the sriracha t-shirt. That's all I remember from this movie. That is all I remember. It was so like not memorable at all. And that to me is like a mark of like a very like if the worst thing a movie can be to me is like not memorable.
Yeah, I think that a lot of action movies, even if they have a different premise to it, like a different start to it, like The Beekeeper, you know, Jason Statham is best friends with Felicia Rashad, and she is scammed by some like person on a telephone line, and then she, spoiler, takes her own life. Then he goes on a killing spree for people who do scam calls to the elderly. Like, it's a different premise, it's a different start, but everything else is like every other Jason Statham movie. He breaks into buildings and he fights the bad guys. And he makes money. So, they always kind of...
I think the only Jason Statham movie I've seen is everything in Fast and Furious that he was in. Oh, and Collateral. Oh no, wait, and Snatch. Okay, yeah, no, I've seen plenty of Jason Statham.
I mean, I feel
He
like
just
those.
kind of blends in.
Mm, yeah.
Oh,
I
he was the
mean,
guy in the Meg 2. Meg 2, The Trench.
oh yeah, he was.
The poster on like a jet ski, like riding away from a shark.
Was it Ruby Rose in that movie?
Oh, and he was also in the first Meg. He's
Hmm.
the guy from the Meg.
Hmm.
Okay, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems like he's one of those actors who kind of just like, you put him in an action movie, he's gonna do his job. He does it well. I mean, he gets paid for it. Like they keep hiring.
Jason Statham. Like he knows he has one thing that he does. He's not trying to win an Oscar.
He's having fun.
He's there to just be like an imposing. Is he bald? He's not bald.
He is bald.
What is Jason Statham? Is he bald?
Yeah,
He's there to be an imposing, like, bald dude.
Yeah. I mean, he loves it. So, I mean, I'm going to assume he loves it. I mean, he's still doing it. So, I'm going to assume he enjoys it. So it looks like for South by Southwest, yeah, The Accountant, Death of Unicorn, which is the Jenny Ortega movie, Another Simple Favor, which is the Paul Feig sequel to Simple Favor that came out in 2019, and also there is the premiere of Seth Rogen's Apple TV series The Studio, which was an opening night premiere, which I am interested in and I'm excited for. So there are a lot of things that are premiering on South by Southwest. Friendship was one of those that did very well. I'm excited to see it come out, and any other releases that are coming from the festival. And that's going to wrap up our Media Mania, guys. So we're going to get right into the meat and the potatoes of the podcast, talking about Uglies. Uglies is a movie that came out on Netflix in 2024. It is adapted from the YA novel written by... And Monica didn't even write down who wrote the book. Wow, that's so good, Monica. Good job. Wow, wonderful notes. Hold on. Uglies book. Scott Westerfield. I was about to say another name, and that's a different... I was going to say different author. Okay. Uglies. Sorry, I have to do this over. Hold on. So we're going to go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, talking about Uglies. Uglies is a Netflix original movie that came out in 2024 that is based off a book written by Scott Westerfield, and it stars Joey King, who plays Tally Youngblood, Chase Stokes, who plays Paris, her best friend. We also have Laverne Cox, who plays Dr. Cable in the movie. Now, the movie, like the book, is a science fiction, dystopian, young A film. The book's a young A novel, and like the book, the movie feels very much like the 2010s. So, for this podcast, guys, usually we review movies and we talk about them, we dissect them. Unfortunately, this movie's garbage, it's trash. So, we're just really going to get into it and talk about what's poorly executed, what works, what doesn't, what we like, what we don't like, and then go from there. Now, Nick, Evasive, I did want to get your take on the film, because you had mentioned that, like, Uglies was a book you had seen kind of like in your school library, but you haven't read it before. So when you saw the movie on Netflix, what were your initial thoughts or like your initial expectations when you were watching the film?
I mean, okay, so it was exactly what I expected it to be, just like some pretty, honestly, generic kind of YA young adult. It felt very much like a movie that should have come out like 15 years. Like, it already felt dated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something about that whole, like, there's an old SNL, not old SNL sketch. There's an SNL sketch from 2014. And it's like a parody trailer of every YA movie. The SNL, I think it was called The Group Hopper, was the name of the fake movie, and it's like, this is the only guy who can hop between groups. He can be categorized into just one group. He is the group hopper. This whole movie felt like that fake SNL parody trailer. It was just like so generic, so like, the only reason why I think like it was made at all is because it's been a long time since the YA boom of like the early 2010s and the late 2000s. Like, you had movies like Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter wrapping up, Hunger Games, Aragon, Maze Runner, Divergent, like when those were all coming out, like
Yeah.
it's been a good 10 years since then. And I think that like that genre, like they waited a long time. And I saw that, what's it called? The Hunger Games prequel movie made a bunch of money. I didn't see it, but it made a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is that time where like people are older and they're now like nostalgic for that YA novel stuff. So I think that the studios are now looking and seeing like, okay, there's also the younger generation of Netflix watchers who never read these books, don't even know about these books. And I think that they're targeting like the demographic of like people who are nostalgic for when the books were a thing and people who never knew the books existed. Those are like what they're aiming for with this type of thing. And so they put Joey King, you know, Netflix darling Joey King, the
Yep.
kissing booth girl. Joey, do they really expect us to believe that she's ugly? Like it's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's so dumb on so many levels. But they got her.
Chase Stokes.
They got, yeah. The other people in the movie, honestly, I didn't really recognize. Besides Laverne Cox, which I thought was so funny to have Laverne Cox. Like basically the plot of the movie. I don't know if I'm not going to swear.
You can. It's going.
Okay, so bleed me out if I can't say it. Whatever. The plot of this movie is in the future. President Laverne Cox makes it illegal to not serve cunt. And so everyone has to get mandatory plastic surgery when they turn 16. But, you know, the government pays for their plastic surgery and then it looked like they all got a luxury apartment. Like free plastic surgery, free luxury apartment. And they're trying to tell us this is a dystopia. It is so not believable at all. Like everything about this is like, I mean, yeah, for YA stuff, you have to suspend disbelief a little bit, but even within like the realm of Hunger Games, like that's believable. This is not believable at all.
Yeah. I think with Hunger Games, because Susan Collins kind of based it in like what she learned about the Iraq War, that's why so many people like, you know, a lot of people when the prequels came out, like you said, it made a lot of money. When the prequels came out, a lot of people were rereading the Hunger Games books and talking about like the political themes within the books and how they're comparing it to like what's going on today in our political climate. So with Uglies, I think that Netflix is still trying to find that like social movie that makes like a message in a way, but
it's like the message is so ham-fisted. It's so heavy-handed. I mean, they're literally called Uglies and Pretties. And the Pretties, you know, everyone in this beautiful future, everyone needs to become a pretty. And it's weird because like the concept was like, if we're to believe this, they are calling all children under 16 uglies.
right.
Like, why do you have the term? Like, just call them kids. If they all have to become pretty at 16, why are they calling them uglies and pretty? Like, it's so transparent what they're doing here. You know, the whole like they're rebelling and they're escaping society. So like, I'm going to go. And then there's like also the subplot about like fighting back because the people in the city are destroying the environment with their energy source. And it's like, I know there's like 3 books or whatever, and they're probably like, I don't know, does Wikipedia say it says, yeah, they're probably going to make the other 2 books in the movies too.
Possibly.
Like, it's going to be one of those things where like they're going to make 2 more sequels. People are going to like hate watch them, but they're still going to watch them. Like,
Yeah.
because I will say like the production design, like the design of the futuristic world, they clearly spent a lot of money on this. Like this movie looked cool. Like the design of the futuristic city, the scene where she shows up at the party in the city where they play that slowed down remix of Such Great Heights by the Postal Service. Like, I'm like, okay, there's like some good stuff in here, but clearly the visual team did the best they could, but it couldn't save a movie with a garbage script and bad acting too. Like almost everyone who wasn't like Laverne Cox did a good job, but I feel like every other actor was just like kind of phoning it in because they knew like this is not going to be good. The script is like too awful for this to be good.
Yeah. I do have to say, with what you said about like the uglies and pretties of terms that they used to refer to people, I feel like that does fall on the book, because a lot of times when we look back on the books we read when we were younger, to us, because we were younger, that's nostalgic, we think like, this book is so deep, this book is so introspective, this book is so great. But there are a lot of times where people, they go back and read books when they were younger. When it's Hunger Games is a pretty solid book. Books like Harry Potter or Divergent, people look at them as like, this isn't really that great. It doesn't hold up that much. For Uglies, I didn't go back and reread it, but I know that like when I read it, I enjoyed it simply for like the layers of it, the message about beauty standards in society and things like that. But I feel like Netflix absolutely, they took kind of like the surface level, message of the book, and they're like, now how do we make this into a movie where we can make money? Because that's really what we're trying to do here. And it's obvious with like hiring a lot of actors they already have worked with, like Joey King from The Kissing Booth, like you said, Chase Stokes from Outer Banks, and then like Laverne Cox is a very well-known actress as well. Having these people in this movie to try and like bring people to watch it without really trying to go deeper into the film, because the book is not that long. It's pretty short compared to like something like Dune, which is very long, but that was pretty well adapted into a film that people enjoyed. But Uglies is like an hour and a 40-minute movie, and everything is fast-paced, rushed, not well written. And you're right, it does feel like a lot of the acting is phoned in, which is disappointing because Joey King is, I believe, a Golden Globe nominated actress from her role in the, what was
the
it?
one where she played
Who was she?
The Act.
The Act,
She
yes.
played Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Yes, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Chase Stokes, I mean, I think he's a good actor because I like Outer Banks, but also Outer Banks is one of those shows that's like Stranger Things. Like, Netflix will never let that show end or die. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Well,
that.
also, like, I think this movie also shot itself in the foot a little bit by making it very clear, like, when you turn 16, you go get the surgery.
Mm.
And they expect us to believe that Joey King is 15 years old in this movie. Like, Joey King looks like she's been, like, legal to drink for years. Like, she is not even close to looking like 15. If they had cast an actual teenager in the role,
it probably would have held up better.
it probably would have helped a lot, but you cannot believe that Joey King is 15. I looked it up. She was 22 when they filmed this.
Yeah,
like, there's a big difference. Like, she's still young, but not believable as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I think that Netflix has a really bad habit of casting, young adults as teens. But also, I feel like I know one of my biggest problems with the movie was the fact that no one is actually ugly. And I know that some people, when they were watching the movie and critiquing it, there were some people reviewing it like, you can't say that you have to cast ugly people in movies. And I just want to say, I know beauty is subjective. I am the beholder, all that, whatever. You know what is attractive with people and what is not. You could take characteristics that people have, like big nose, bushy eyebrows, pimples, uneven skin. I don't care, whatever. And cast people that look like that in the role of being in ugly. Joey King, who has porcelain skin, beautiful blue eyes, nice lips, like gorgeous hair, like she does not fit the role of someone who is ugly. Neither does Chase Stokes.
Yeah,
he's
and I guess I think that was part of what they were going for, because they were like, this society makes her think she's ugly, but really she's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But then what does that say about people who actually are ugly? Like, I don't know. It's just like the movie clearly like spent a lot of money on the special effects, a lot of money. It doesn't look cheap. It looks like Star Wars. Like, it looks like big budget, futuristic sci-fi world. And it just confuses me why they wouldn't like, was there some reason why they couldn't, I guess it's like, when you change details from a book, that can really backfire because like fans will get really pissed off if it's bad. But I feel like in this case, the source material was so whatever, and it was so long ago, and I can't imagine that there would be a really rabid fan base that would attack them for changing some details to make for a better. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. But it seemed to me like they were trying so hard to like keep to the book that they kept in all of the flaws of the fact that it was, you know, a YA novel for kids. Like, they could have made it more adult, but they're like, no, let's just. They probably didn't want to write any new material. Probably just were like, the story's already written. Let's not change anything.
Yeah, that is also the case with a lot of book adaptations because if you already have the source material there, a lot of times studios don't feel the need to really like expand upon it. And I think that in the example of Barbie, because this is the only thing I could think of, a lot of people did not understand how Barbie could become a movie because Barbie is a toy. Like, of course, you could talk about society's beauty standards for young girls in like the form of dolls and like commodification and capitalism, but like how do you translate that into a kids movie? And Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, they did a good job of taking Barbie and creating this film that had a really great message that resonated with women of all ages. So I think that with Uglies, what they lacked was like a proper writing team that had the vision and also just like the passion really to look at this book, think about the message that this book could convey to young children, young girls, adolescents, whatever, and write a movie that would be something that would inspire the actors to actually do well and not just phone in on their acting, because there are 3 screenwriters on this movie, and yet the line delivery and some of the scenes in this film are just garbage. So I feel like it really does come from like, you know, just a production standpoint from the source.
Yeah, the director was Mick G. Mick G, who was he has a illustrious filmography. Besides the fact that his name is Mick G, he's been making these types of movies like since the early 2000s, like kind of just like whatever adaptations and sequels. He did the Charlie's Angels movies in the early 2000s. That's what he's most known for, is the Charlie's Angels movies.
I like those.
He did Terminator 4.
Okay, I did see that.
Terminator, one of the ones that people don't like. He did he did The Babysitter in The Babysitter 2. He kind of just makes, you know, he kind of just makes movies. That this is one of those directors, like there's a type of director who I would say is a director that follows orders.
Yeah.
There's a type of director who they get hired because they will do what the producer says. They're not going to like try to do their own thing. They're not going to try to like overstep their bounds. They understand this is a studio production and he's just there to captain the ship, but he's not, you know, he didn't write it. He doesn't really have any stake in it himself.
Yeah. He doesn't really have a vision. He's just like there to clock in, clock out, and make sure he
like I'm thinking about this because I'm working on a video right now about 50 Shades of Grey 2 as a follow-up to my video about 50 Shades of Grey that I did a few months ago. And that was a case where the first movie was directed by a woman who kept arguing with the writer and arguing with the producers because she wanted to change details because she knew 50 Shades of Grey, the book, is not well written. And she wanted to change details to make for a better movie. And the producers and the writer didn't want her to do that because they wanted it to be just like the book. So in 50 Shades of Grey 2 and 3, they fired her and replaced her with a guy who mostly directed like episodes of House of Cards and stuff, like a TV director, because TV directors can take orders a lot better because they're like, it's their episode, but it's not their show, you know? And I think Mick G is like one of those directors where he kind of just like takes orders from the studio and doesn't really try to do anything like on his own.
Yeah, I think that also happened with Twilight. There was a director that stepped in for the first film, and then I think she wanted to cast like people who are actually Native American for the werewolves. I believe in the first movie, and then Stephanie Meyer was like, "Let's not do that," and then they found a new director.
Yeah, the first, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was definitely what happened because Catherine Hardwicke only directed the first Twilight movie. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that happens a lot with book series because there's a source material that they have to work off of, and usually it's like a studio. If a book gets adapted, it's because the studio bought the rights to the book. So versus something that's an original story where the director might have a lot more control. So this is very much one of those cases where it was what production company? It was originally the Uglies was originally bought by 20th Century Fox. And then it didn't appear again until 2020 when it re-entered development. So I think probably what happened was 20th Century Fox bought the rights to it. And at some point they sold the rights to Netflix because they weren't doing anything. That seems to me what happened here is they just like, at some point in the 2010s, they sold it to Netflix. And Netflix kind of just like, they put their own Netflix-y
spin on
this
it.
is a product, doesn't matter how good it is, it's just going to be another thing to put on the service. Here's $30 million, go make whatever, just get it done.
Yeah, it's very clear that this film it's not a genuine product of the books. It's not very good. No.
Well, it's passionless. Like nobody who's working on it really cared. I mean, you say like Netflix original, Netflix original young adult movie. Already, that's not going to win any awards. Like that's not winning any awards. The best you could hope for is that like it goes viral for some reason or other. Like what was that one last year, a couple years ago? Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Oh yeah, that was Amazon Prime, I think.
Yeah, that went viral. That is like the best you can hope for like a young adult movie, is that it goes viral on TikTok or whatever. This, I mean, if they make sequels, that must say that enough people watched it to warrant a sequel, but Netflix isn't going to tell us how many people actually watched it.
Yeah.
Letterboxd says that of his Letterboxd users, 234,000 views on Letterboxd, which is a lot more than some other much better movies. So, yeah. But it's because there's a subset of people who like Netflix is their only streaming service.
That's true.
They watch it like a TV channel. Like they will watch whatever shows up new on Netflix. They'll watch because it's their only streaming service, so they're just going to watch everything. That is a like decent chunk of people who do that.
Yeah, I was curious to get your opinion. Why do you feel like YA adaptations struggle so much? Because it's very clear that they're trying to like bring that back into like media or like movies, TV shows, all that stuff. Why do you feel like they don't do well anymore?
I think that it's just like when YA novels were like at their peak was the 2000s, when the internet wasn't new, but it was new enough that like not everybody was on it. And those books would spread among schools as being like, because back then we didn't have smartphones to watch videos on. You couldn't like, if you wanted to entertain yourself at school, it was a book.
Yep.
Or like a Game Boy that you smuggled into your backpack.
Yeah.
Those are like your only two options. And so books in school were like a cultural commodity. Like you saw all of your friends reading Percy Jackson. You also want to read Percy Jackson so you know the story. And I guess Uglies was like a little bit of that, like the book was. But these days kids have their iPhones where they can access every streaming service, all of YouTube. Like the market for young adult novels, they just don't spread anymore because kids like they're not reading as much as they like. There's definitely still kids, like I'm not a teacher, so I don't know what goes on in schools anymore, but there's still a market for them, but the market's a lot smaller than it was when we were kids.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that because I feel like there is I don't know how to say this. There's a shift, and I guess kids' entertainment, so to speak, Because I remember when I was younger, I would read like a book a day. And even then, when I was younger, like I was also the only kid in my high school who didn't have a cell phone, so like I had no choice. I had to read. It was reading or it was watching the news with my parents, so I was reading. But you're right; it is more common for younger children or like teens, adolescents to have a smartphone, to have a laptop, to have an iPad where they don't have to read. If they want to, they can read on their device as well, but they don't have to pick up a book from the library. So these YA adaptations don't hold as much favor because, like, if you're going to adapt a book that no one's reading, then who's going to go watch the movie?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like looking up other Y. So most of the YA stuff, I feel like the sci-fi young adult novels you don't really see as much. You see a lot more of the romantic ones that get turned into movies. I think The Idea of You was a book first.
Yeah.
Red, White, and Royal Blue was a book first. The After series, Kissing Booth, I know was a book first. All the Boys I Loved Before.
All the Boys I Loved Before, yep. The After series was Wattpad, wasn't it? Like online fiction?
I pulled up a letterbox list of like young adult novels that were, and you can see the progression. Like this list starts like Princess Diaries, Harry Potter, Series of Unfortunate Events, Chronicles of Narnia, Aragon, City of Ember, which I think tanked. Inkheart, when they tried to make Percy Jackson into a series.
Yep.
Twilight, Beastly, I Am Number 4. And then over time, you can see it start to shift, after like Ender's Game and Hunger Games, it became more about like, and I can actually see it right here. It's like, for years, there was like no real sci-fi YA, like the Maze Runner 3 or whatever was like the last one. After like the last Divergent movie completely tanked, it seems like they kind of moved away from that. And for years, it was just like romance, The Kissing Booth, Love, Simon. And it seems like, now they're starting to get back into the sci-fi stuff with Hunger Games prequel movie. It took them like a decade to come back, but now they're starting to do YA, young adult, whatever. I don't know. New generation, I guess. A lot of kids didn't. They have so many of those books that were produced that have never been made into movies.
I think you're right in saying there has been kind of a trend in young adult books being adapted into movies. I also think about The Ballad of Songs, Snakes and Songbirds. I think that's a Hunger Games prequel. And I feel like for studios, if they're going to continue on adaptations, you need to at least make it good. Because To All the Boys I Loved Before, I didn't read that book, but I liked the movie. I like all the movies. I enjoyed them. I think the first one is the best one, obviously, but they're all quite enjoyable. They're easy to watch. I feel like the problem with Uglies was that they just hinged on people, seeing the trailer, seeing Joey King and being like, let me go watch it. But you cannot just hinge your whole movie on a recognizable actress. It has to be good. People have to watch it and actually like it and then be excited for the sequel. That's just effort.
Ready Player One. I think was when kind of the trend of the sci-fi YA novel stuff restarted. I guess you could debate about whether or not that's a young adult novel, but I'm just looking at this list of the most popular young adult books of the 2000s. And City of Ember flopped. They could bring that back. They never did Clockwork Angel, the Infernal Devices series. I don't think they ever did.
Oh, I remember that. Well, that's based off the City of Bones, and that movie did not do well. They did the Shadowhunter show on Freeform, and that went on for a couple seasons, so I don't know. I don't know if they could do that.
There's my point is there's no shortage of these. If they really wanted to, I can see The Uglies was on this list.
Yeah. It's clear that there is a market there. It's just there has to be something else put it. I feel even the world building in the movie is very lackluster. And I don't remember much about the books, but I feel the books at least do a solid job of explaining to you why things are the way that it is. Like everyone has to take the pretty procedure surgery because the earth is dying, and everyone turning pretty makes the earth more sustainable. There's a more succinct
Yeah,
explanation than that, but
it
that's it.
was.
I feel like the
It
world
was,
building
I
could
don't
have
know,
been.
it was paper thin. It was just like, it's really one of those movies that Netflix just put out to say like, oh look, we have a young adult book
Yeah.
novel. I don't know. That's the thing about Hollywood that like confuses me. I look at these movies that like they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on, and I'm just like, why? Like, why did you waste so much money on this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you say like Netflix original, like young adult, I was expecting it to look cheaper, but it looks so expensive. The
Mm.
CGI and the futuristic production design, it looked like they spent a dump truck of money on this. And I'm like, for what? And that's just the history of Netflix. They just put out these really expensive looking movies, and I'm like, for who?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this for? Like, why? And we don't work for Netflix, so we'll never know because Netflix never explains themselves.
That's the thing with Netflix is that like they're good at making things look good, but it's never that good. It's not substantial. It's not anything that's like with any kind of substance in some of their movies. And even with the CGI, there are some parts that I did like and I enjoyed, but some of the parts with like the hoverboard scenes, or even with like the pretties, like with the Instagram face, TikTok bold filter people, it's still uncanny valley in a way. Not in a way where like you can understand why getting this pre-surgery is strange and like odd, but it's uncanny valley in a way where it's like this cannot be where all the money went. Y'all have to do better than this because everybody looks strange. These contacts look cheap. Like the makeup, the outfits, it's not giving.
Yeah,
It's
a lot of the good stuff in the movie was stuff that they did in post production. It almost seemed
mm,
like they filmed it, they looked at what they had, and they were like, okay, this is going to be, they're like, we have to try to salvage this somehow. Let's spend millions of dollars in the post production to make it look really good.
mm-hmm.
Because they must have looked at what they filmed and said, like, this sucks. Like, they had to have been like, this is not going to be good. Let's just try to make it look pretty.
Yeah. I think that when I was rewatching Pretties and I was looking at the Uglies outfits and I think the Smokies, the people that live outside this society,
Rusties.
the Rusties. Okay, the Rusties. When I was watching the movie and I was seeing like what they were wearing and like how they looked and how they were all dirty and stuff, I understand that it's meant to look like drab, boring, like really like lame, but I thought about Severance because I've been rewatching Severance recently, and with Severance, everything is very, basic, bland. It's very lackluster, but there is a clear design to everything in the set in the show. Like the hallways are stark white. So every hallway looks the same. You don't know how people don't get lost in like, Lumen, the building where they work. The desks are, a nice color, but it's very much like one color or one dynamic. It's very like, I think 70s is the setting for Severance. And in comparison to Uglies, with Severance, there is a purpose behind the set design. Uglies, it's just like, they're meant to look homeless, so let's just make them look bad. Let's make them look like dirt poor. But with Severance, it's like these people are bland. They work in an office. They don't remember what they do when they leave their home. So we have to make everything look as completely basic as possible. So I think that within the set design and within the writing, like it just lacks any kind of real like purpose behind anything. They're just like, go out there and look bad. Like, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those things where I'm just like, what else even is there to say? All I'm trying to think of is like, if I wanted to dive into this for a video, like what group of people would I force to watch this? Someone suggested in my comments, because I left a review on Letterboxd, which after this episode comes out, I can link to the episode in my review.
Mm-hmm.
But someone commented like, please, or someone said like, they said, I clicked on your review and I was half expecting you to say, I just made ugly people watch this.
No.
And then someone else commented back like, is it bad that I really want that video? I'm like, I can't do that. I can't, you can't, that's mean. But I'm like, what if I made models watch Uglies?
I mean,
Or,
I think that
I
would be
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know. Because it's like, I always, for my videos, I come up with the title first and then make the video around the title because it's YouTube. That's how you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I mean, it would be really funny to do. I made ugly people watch Uglies, but then you have to find people who call themselves ugly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, there's people who do that in a really self-depreciating way. There's like no way to do that video without like it coming across as something. So it would have to be like I made hot people watch Uglies.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah. I did want to ask you about the pretty surgery because I remember when I was like reading the book, I didn't understand the purpose behind the pretty surgery because the environmental aspect didn't really make sense to me. I didn't remember this when I was younger because when I was younger, I used to keep a journal of all the books I read and I found the Word document that I had for it. And so like, I didn't understand the environmental impact of like, oh, humans destroyed the planet. They found a renewable energy source and now people take a surgery to like
and the renewable. Okay, so that is actually one part of the movie I did understand. The whole like they were like, oh, in the distant past, you know, humanity destroyed itself with fossil fuels, but luckily we created a renewable energy source from a magical tulip or some flower.
Yeah.
But the plot twist is, oh, their new energy source is also destroying the environment, and it's supposed to be like a, you know, history repeats itself type of thing, I guess. Like that's the message they're going for. But it's not even clear, like,
how.
It's not, they don't really show in what way these flowers translate to an energy source because they just look like flowers.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a subplot that's just like there to like add stakes to the movie because it's like, if they didn't have the like environmental destruction angle going on, it's like, why would they even be fighting back?
Mm-hmm.
Why would the people in the forest be like, once they escape the city, what are they fighting against? You know, they had to give them a reason to be fighting back against the fascism, whatever they were going for. I don't know. Without that, it kind of, the story just kind of like doesn't have a real like through line.
Yeah. I do agree with you on that, and I feel like with making the society seem eco-friendly and then also tying in like the pretty procedure, I was thinking to myself watching the movie, I couldn't help but think about the substance, obviously, because, you know, Oscar season just happened, and I watched the substance, I think it was December or January it was, but I watched that movie, I didn't watch it in theaters. I was watching it, and then I remember, I was watching Uglies, and I was thinking about the substance, and how in the substance, you know, there's not another B plot in the movie. Like, the movie is about Elizabeth Sparkles, who was a very well-known actress, and then she became a workout star, you know, with her training videos, and then she got fired from her job, and then she took the substance so she could be younger, and then took back her old job, because the way that society looks at women when they age is that you have to look like you're 17 when you're 50 years old. Even though that's impossible, that's what they want. And even though you look 15, you still have to fit into the impossible, like, beauty standards that your body has to look like, so that we can see you as a commodity, you know, as someone that is, you know, bankable in a way. And when I was watching Pretties, it was like, it did have the same, I guess, connection for me, because for the substance, it makes sense. Like, she exists in Hollywood, she exists in entertainment. Like, we see this, we see why it is. And then with Pretties, it was like, these people are getting the pretty surgery because they don't want, the government doesn't want normal people to know that they're still harming the environment. So they made everybody dumb and gave them brain lesions so they don't care that the environment is dying. It's like, girl, we couldn't think of something else. Is propaganda not working anymore? We have to give people brain lesions. Is cancer now?
Yeah, it's like, because that was something I feel like they added, because to me, I'm like, what is the downside of this? You turn 16, they make you hot.
Yeah.
They give you a free mansion. You live in Austin. Like, I didn't understand what the And then it was later like, oh, well, when they get the surgery, they take out part of their brain to make them more brainless. And also, some people die during the surgery. And
Mm.
also, it's destroying the environment. It's like they set up this like incredible futuristic world. And of course, they have to add reasons to like, this is why it's bad. But it's just like, oh, it was just like so thin. It was so like, it's nothing burger. There's nothing here.
I know that it's better explained in the books, and I know it's expanded upon more, especially in the second book. But because Netflix did not already build the foundation for the first movie for the world building, and they made everything so like weak and so surface level, by the time they come to the second movie, it's still going to be pretty surface level because Netflix makes movies for people who scroll on their phone. They don't make movies for people who
Yeah.
watch movies.
Yeah, or they do sometimes, but it's like 2 or 3 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and those are their like award-winning movies. Those
Mm-hmm.
are their like, here's our Oscar movies. Here's Martin Scorsese, The Irishman. Here's something meaty. But the rest of the movies they put out are just like they're TV movies, basically. They're the modern day equivalent of like the whatever they used to call it when they would air like the Disney Channel original movies for adults, basically, where it's just like no one ever watched a Disney Channel original movie expecting a masterpiece.
Yeah.
The best
It,
you can hope for is like a High School Musical.
they're like Adam Sandler movies, you know.
Yeah, which Adam Sandler has done a bunch of Netflix movies, so that all checks out.
I mean, they literally gave him a blank check, so he's.
Yeah, no, for real. And I'm just like, it really is just like, what have you this there to say? Like, there's nothing.
It's funny because like you see Netflix capable of making so many great movies like Tick Tick Boom. You see Roma. You see The Irishman. You see Beast of Donations, and then they
Yeah,
make things like Uglies, Amelia Perez.
it,
Like, what's going on?
Netflix is just such a big company that they just like
Don't care.
they don't care. They kind of just are like, oh, here's $30 million. Get it done. Get it done by
Yes.
September. That's basically all they do. That's about as much. And they'll be like, I guess they'll step in and be like, oh, it has to have this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly it just seems like they kind of just give people money, give production companies money and say, make us a movie by this date.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
I
reading
don't.
the top reviews for Uglies on Letterboxd,
Mm-hmm.
and all the reviews are like 2 stars, 1.5 stars.
Yep.
1.5 stars. This movie would have done numbers in 2011. 1.5 stars. 90-minute Facetune ad.
I don't know if the movie would have done well in 2011 because when you look back at movies that came out in like 2011, 2012, the ones that people still watch are movies that are good. Like there are people who do watch
Yeah.
bad movies for entertainment, of course, but like
Yeah, but why movies even back then, some of them were flopping.
yeah,
Aragon, you know. Actually, did Aragon flop? I
I
have no
think it
idea.
did.
I
Also
just
this
remember people being like hyped because they were like, they're turning Aragon into a movie. And then the movie,
was bad.
wait, the movie was in 2006? Okay, they did that fast. Wow.
Wow.
I just remember people being like, why didn't they make an Aragon? I remember what it was. People were like, Aragon books are great. How come they're not a movie? And then people would be like, they did make a movie.
No one liked it.
Nobody liked it.
No.
Yeah, it says after the poor critical reception of Aragon, the sequels were not produced. That happened also with Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Mm.
where they were like, they made the first one, it did a lot of money, made a lot of money, but the reviews were horrible, so they canceled the sequels because they know you can't fool people twice.
Yeah.
You know, they fooled them the first time thinking it might be good, but you can't make Avatar: The Last Airbender 2 and expect it to make that much money again because the first one was so bad.
Also, you already have Avatar, the TV show, that is a success.
Yeah,
I feel like
but
go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just reading some of the other Letterboxd reviews.
One thing I will say is that I think Uglies could have been done well because I remember enjoying the book when I was younger. And I mean, I read almost everything when I was younger. So, like, maybe I shouldn't take her advice. But, like, I liked the book when I was younger. And I think that, themes of commodification, capitalism, conformity, beauty standards in society, these are things that people are talking about now. Like, a lot of celebrities going on Ozempic, people deflating their BBLs, like Pretty Little Thing becoming only conservative wear and business casual when it used to be club clothes. Like this is a very
Yeah.
topical thing that we could have and Netflix could have done. But they dropped the ball. And out of all the YA adaptations they've done, one about war, one about fitting in, one about beauty standards was kind of missing. And we could have had that, but they did not. I don't want to say, well, they didn't bring, I don't know how to say this. They didn't bring the sauce. That sounds so weird. They didn't do it well. They didn't do a good job.
No, they did not do it well. Okay. Because some other top reviews. Amanda the Jedi, another YouTuber, she said, "Help, I blacked out watching Megalopolis and woke up in 2013 to this movie playing on my iPod."
Oh my God.
This did feel like a movie installed directly to an iPod Touch. I don't know what I mean by that, but it kind of just feels like it did feel very 2013.
Mm-hmm.
A year that I remember very well. I think it's when Hunger Games Catching Fire came out.
Oh, wow. That was so good.
Other
Yes.
reviews say 2.5 stars. Awful. I want 10 more. 1 star. How much longer are we going to let Joey King play a 16-year-old?
Okay, I did want to ask you because me personally, I think Joey King is a good actress. And I know she's a good actress.
Yeah, she can act well.
Yes.
But I think she also knows, like, she didn't really need to,
do her best.
she didn't really need to do her best. I think a lot of actors kind of know that. They know going into a movie, like, this is not it's not gonna be worth it to try really hard.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in school and you're in a class you don't really care about. You're like, as long as I pass,
Mm-hmm.
as long as I get paid, basically.
There are times when I see a actor in a bad movie and I just have to think to myself, which producer, like, which person on your team owes someone a favor? Because this can't be why. It couldn't have been, like, I get you like the book, maybe, but, like, book to script, baby, we should have jumped ship.
Yeah. No, they just gave her a bunch of money. That's all it is. At the end of the day, normally it's like, why was someone in this movie? The answer is almost always money.
Yeah, that's true. And I think they were trying to do, like, they always try to do this with every female YA MC. Like, they try to make them into Katniss Everdeen. But Katniss Everdeen cannot be your template. She cannot be, like, the example. You have to do something new. Like the archery scene I saw and I was like, now we're doing it too much. Now it's tired.
Yeah. I feel like they were also, these type of things, sometimes they feel like I don't know, they have like backdoor, how do I say this? I feel like they put things into these movies where it's like, just in case this movie is a hit, we can turn this into like merch and toys and whatever. Like, was the hoverboard, was that in the book?
Yeah.
But I feel like the way they use the hoverboards and the design, a lot of the character design, especially of like Laverne Cox and the outfit that the Uglies wear, it kind of lent itself to like, just in case this is a hit, we can make some action figures out of this. And it was not a hit and nobody cares. But it just goes back to like when Hunger Games was a hit, there were Hunger Games figures and toys, and like Harry Potter obviously had that. And I think a lot of these YA things kind of like take their production design to the next level because they're like, just in case this takes off, we need to have stuff that we can sell. And I mean, I don't know how. I guess it didn't really take off because I didn't really hear about it. So
I do remember you talking about the production design in films. It reminded me of when I watched Watchmen, directed by Zack Snyder in 2009. And there was a part in the movie, I don't remember who the character's name is, but it's the guy with the blonde hair. And he has like these action figures. And when I was younger and I watched the movie, of course I didn't like don't anything but the Watchmen comics. But when I got older, I read the Watchmen comics and I was like, that didn't make sense to put action figures in these comics because the comics are very blatantly anti-capitalistic. So why would this be in there? But like the studio wants to sell action figures. The studio thinks like Watchmen's going to become a huge series. We're going to make money off of these movies. So let's put the action figures in there because we need to
Yeah.
make some money.
I remember the first time I ever saw something like that as a kid where I was like, that is so stupid and so bad, was when the Lorax movie came out and there were like Nissan car commercials with the Lorax in it.
Oh no.
Like, the Lorax, I remember thinking as a kid, I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh no. Oh no.
Wait a minute. Isn't that an environmentalist movie? Like I was, a kid and I was like,
No.
that's not right.
No.
That was the first time I remember being like seeing that where I was like, and I think if you Google like Lorax car commercial, you can still find it. Like, it might not have been Nissan, but it was like some company where it was like, are you serious? They let them, like, who allowed this? Like, it made no sense.
That is, oh my gosh, that's so strange. Like, that's,
Yeah, I found it. It was a commercial for a 2013 Mazda CX-5. Liberty Mazda presents the 2012 Mazda Lorax commercial.
no, no, babe. I'm sorry.
It's because their car was certified truffle tree friendly because it was 1% more, 1% less emissions or something.
It's still a car. It's still a car. We must have lost the plot. I must be confused.
Yeah, it's the same as like, I'm trying to think of a funny example. I can't think of one. It just completely defeats. It's you know what it is? It's like if the Uglies movie was sponsored by like Dr. Miami's plastic surgery office. Like it's so like the opposite of what the movie is about.
Ah. Imagine if it was sponsored by, what was that one? Ozempic? Wegovy? One of those.
Yeah, it was sponsored by Ozempic.
God.
I think it just goes to show like the people who are higher up at the studios who control like marketing and all that are very disconnected from the people on the creative side.
Yeah.
Just in general throughout Hollywood. It feels like they almost don't communicate with each other sometimes.
You're right. Because everything does feel pretty cookie cutter in the movie. Even Dr. Cable, who is Laverne Cox's character, because she feels like who is it? It's not Madam Snow, but it was that lady in the Hunger Games that Katniss.
Effie something?
It wasn't Effie. You remember? Do you remember Mockingjay Part 2 when there was that lady who Katniss was working with, and Katniss ended up her because she figured out that she was just as bad as Snow, but she wanted to take over. But Katniss was looking at her sideways.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe I watched the video essay about it, but with that character in the Hunger Games, I really should look up her name. That way I know who I'm talking about. Hold on.
President Alma Coin.
Yes, President Coin. Yeah, that sounds familiar. President Coin, yeah. With President Coin in the Hunger Games, at least we knew that she was like a complex character. We knew she was bad, but like Candace is looking at her as like, I mean, Snow's terrible. Snow's awful. Is she just as bad as Snow? Can I leave her in power? You know what I mean? And it happens with the boys every single season. They're like, we're going to kill Homelander. We're going to kill Homelander. And then someone comes who's just worse than Homelander. And somehow Homelander doesn't die. But Dr. Cable, she doesn't have that same like moral ambiguity or any kind of like foundation as a character at all. She's just there. Like Laverne Cox, as gorgeous as she is, as great she
they
is.
Were like, they were like, oh, she worked with these other scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went crazy with power and created the pretty system. I don't know. Nothing
works.
You know, I'm all for giving trans women more high profile roles, but this movie was not it.
Yeah, she just seems like any other villain, And I think that with a villain, if you want people to sympathize with the villain, you have to make their cause in a way like something where you can kind of get behind. You know what I mean? Like in
I mean,
some way, yeah,
I kind of get behind, giving everyone free luxury apartments, but
yeah, free housing, we love it.
it also didn't make any sense. Like her reasoning of how she got to, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm losing brain cells the more I try to talk about this movie. Like
Yeah,
trying to find like it was a payday. A bunch of people got paid.
mm-hmm. They don't really
That
care.
yeah, Netflix gave them millions of dollars, and that's the end of the story until they make Uglies 2. What is Uglies 2 called? Is it called Pretties?
I think it's called Pretties, and then there's a last one called Specials. That's the third
Oh,
one. Yes. But I do remember from I think this is for the end of the movie. She does get the pretty procedure to like become a pretty. We don't know if she took the cure or not. I guess I'll ask you, like, would you did you get the pretty procedure? Because a lot of people when they saw the substance, they're like, I would take the substance, but in my head I was like,
how do you know I didn't already get the pretty procedure?
I mean, well, we're having a conversation right now.
Pretty procedure, though, to me, that was like what was really funny to me because they're like, oh, it's a procedure, like a extensive surgery to turn you pretty. But then near the end, when they almost get turned into pretties, they're put in this like glass like thing and then sprayed with like steam, and then it was like, wait a minute, they're having robots do the pretty procedure. This is an AI generated procedure. They're not even going to have like a human touch to it. It's not even like it's a robot doing the surgery. And they also get to specify, like, is it just their face, or do they like get like a BBL? Like, do they give them like, do they like do liposuction? Do they like, how far does it go? They showed the face, they change their eye color, their hair, whatever. What about the body? Do they do like, are they giving people? And then it's also like Laverne Cox is the president. She is transgender. Where's that in the story? Is it like when they're 16, they can also, when they go through the procedure, can they also do the trans surgeries too? Because Laverne Cox supposed to be trans in this. Probably not, because that wasn't in the book. But it's like there's something interesting they could do with this, but they didn't really explain the interesting part to me.
Yeah.
They just like, I'm most interested to see like the process of like how these people decide what they're going to look like. Because that was what they established. They're like, these 16-year-olds decide what they're going to look like. But then they also implied like people can change their appearance later. I wanted to see more of that, but they didn't really care to dive into that. Maybe the book does. Like, you read the book. Do you remember if they mentioned anything about like body modifications, or if it's just the face? Do they make them like taller and shorter? Like, can they customize themselves literally however they want, or is it just their face?
I do know that in the book there is like kind of like in the beginning of the movie, I think when Joey King was like playing with the filters, you can do that. In the book they reference how like, you pick if you want a smaller nose, if you want like different eyebrows, different eyes, whatever. Elective procedures afterwards, I believe, is available to people, because in the book when Joey King's character Tally, I think, goes to the party to meet her friend Paris, there are like people with like, they're taller, they have better boobs. Tally is not described as like pudgy, but she's not exactly thin. So she had a friend who was like shorter that also got the pretty procedure, and then she ended up being taller that she saw at the party. So I think that the procedures are open to people who are pretties, because like in real life, a lot of times when people get like plastic surgery, you find one thing you want to change, and there's another thing, and then there's another thing, and then there's another thing. So they kind of leave it open to people so that people are happy with how they look. Yeah, I think
a lot of potential.
Squandered it. Absolutely.
And it's actually one of those cases where I'm like, this actually might have been better as like a series, because then they could have at least like developed it some more, like developed the world some more. But it is what it is.
I did want to ask you, do you feel like the love triangle in the show was necessary in the movie? Do you feel like it was necessary?
It was necessary in the same way that it was necessary in like the Hunger Games,
Mm,
or it just was another one of those things where it's like, gotta have a love triangle. It's not a young adult. There's not a love triangle. A lot of reviews were like, oh, Shay and Tally should have been lesbian.
yeah.
I'm like, that kind of seems what they were what they were going for, but then the book like reeled them back from that. And it's just like, I don't even care. I'm like, I have no stake in this. I'm like a girlfriend. I'm not like clamoring for like to be a, I'm not one of those people who like grew up with this book. It's like finally a movie, and then it comes out, and it's like, I didn't care before. I don't care now. If they
Yeah.
make another movie, cool. Maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I won't.
Yeah. As someone who had read the book when I was younger and then saw the movies being made, because I didn't recognize who the director was, but I saw that Joey King was attached to it, I was like, this might be bad. This might be something I have to skip. Like, I'm not going to give my all to it. But I'm not going to say I'm happy I watched it, but it was an interesting watch, so to speak. And to the Tally and Shay, like, shippers, I think it's one of those cases where, like, they kind of fall into the, oh, they look like they're more than friends, where it's not intentional by the writers, but
Yeah, I think it's just in this movie,
yeah.
they made Shay look lesbian. Like
Yes, they
just
did.
Shay's character design
Mm-hmm.
was stereotypically lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where like a lot of that came from.
Also, Paris, he wasn't meant to be that involved in the movie, in the story at all. Like, we know Paris, we know who he is, we meet him in the beginning, but then he basically just like ghost Tally because he's meant to be like her connection to the Pretty's world, or like her anchor, but like he's only there to serve as like her kind of
Oh,
introduction
so
to
that's
like.
they added that. They don't turn him into like a special or whatever. Like where he gets these superpowers in the movie.
I don't remember if he's part of the raid or not. But I don't think that he is. I feel like the raid was something that just kind of like happened in the same way in the book where she like threw the necklace in the fire and it unintentionally like brought the cops. But I think Paris was just supposed to be like her kind of inkling that like being a pretty is not all that great. Like he's not your friend anymore, girl. He don't know you. He's acting like he doesn't know you. You know, like he ditched you. You need to leave him alone. But I did like, what's that actor's, not the actor, the character's name, the other guy who was the Rusty, um not me, not David. I feel like I did like David. Of course, like the writing for his character wasn't that great, but I liked him better in the books. I feel like in the books he was a lot more likable, you know. And it's interesting in the books. It's so funny. I remember this clearly in the book. When Tally meets him, she's like, he's so nice and attractive, but he's ugly. Why is that? Because he is described as like having like bushy hair and like freckles or like pimples, stuff like that on his face. And she's like, I like him, but he's ugly. Why do I like him? It's like, girl, you are brainwashed. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, calm down. He's a good looking guy. Okay? He didn't need that procedure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've been recording for like an hour and a half. I think we're probably one of the very few people in the world who didn't work on this movie who has talked about this movie for longer than an hour.
I know that a bunch of, on YouTube when the video is like over an hour long, I'm like, y'all must have been talking for a while. Because, of course, you have to cut down the video and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts on Uglies?
I mean, I feel like I kind of gave my last thoughts. I'm just like, probably wouldn't have watched it. I like that Laverne Cox is in it. I think they should put Laverne Cox in more movies.
Absolutely.
Maybe put her in some good movies.
Mm.
I think that would be really great. This is a year where we had the first trans woman to be nominated for Best Actress.
Mm-hmm.
She turned out to be racist, and her movie was cringe.
Mm.
And I think that we need to have another trans woman nominated for Best Actress as soon as possible so everyone can forget about Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
And I think Laverne Cox, put her in a good movie, see how she does. Well, she
Yes.
was in a Promising Young Woman, but she didn't have like a super major role in that movie. I don't remember. No, she didn't.
She
Give her
was
like a leading
yeah.
role. Just give her. I know she actually. So Laverne Cox, I actually know because I saw her in person. I went to a taping of the Kelly Clarkson show like a month ago,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
daytime talk show, and Laverne Cox was the guest.
Cool.
She has like a new show out that is
It's
like
clean
apparently,
slate, right?
yeah, clean slate. It, I've heard good things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Laverne Cox can clearly like she
Act.
knows what to do. Put her in a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be
Yeah.
that hard to put her in a good movie.
Instead of watching Uglies, guys, you should watch Clean Slate on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I've heard great things.
Yeah. 100% agree.
I could see it happening. Like Laverne Cox gets like a leading role in like a trans movie that is so much better than Amelia Perez.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we need next is, and this I feel like was probably just a step in the right direction. Like she showed some range here. Wasn't a good movie, but she is marketable.
Yeah.
She played a good villain, or at least I assume she can play a good villain. Whatever. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
all I have to say.
Yeah, I do hope that she gets an opportunity to, shine on screen in some role that is better. That'll be a better display of her talents, so to speak.
Yeah, for real.
Yes. And I think the last thing I really want to say about Uglies is that there are a lot of movies and TV shows that talk about like beauty standards in society. And I feel like if you really drop the ball on something that has been done several times over, then that is on you at the end of the day because you really didn't put in the effort. Like, you're not trying to make a movie about Monopoly, the board game. You're making a movie off of a book that many people have read and that has existed for many, many years. And seeing movies like Uglies always has me like wringing my hands. Whenever I hear that another studio has bought the rights for another book that I liked when I was younger, or a book that I liked recently, because you want it to be adapted. You want the author to get the money. You want actors to be casted in it. But at the same time, you don't want trash. You want something
Yeah.
that's good. And I know this isn't like the same thing, but recently, Children of Blood and Bone, I'm pretty sure that's the title of the book, written by Tomi Adeyemi, that's her last name, was picked up because a long time ago, a studio bought the rights to make it a movie, and then they finally have announced the cast. And this book that is based off of Nigerian mythology has a Black American and Black British cast. And one of the characters in the book who is dark skinned is played by Amanda Stenberg, who everybody knows is light skinned. Another time where she's playing a dark skinned character. But it's this trend in studios where they take these books, they take these adaptations, and, the book is popular, people read the book, people like the book, they want to make money, but they do not care enough to do it right and do it well. And I'm getting really tired and annoyed with, like, all these things. Like, I don't even want to talk about books that I liked when I was younger, that I read, that I want to see made into movies or TV shows, because I don't want some person who's listening to this to be like, oh, this is a good idea, because y'all are going to mess it up. Y'all are going to, you're not going to do what you're supposed to do. You're not going to do it well. You're going to do it terribly. But you're going to make your money and you're going to be happy. You're going to meet your bottom line. And everyone's going to get paid and I'm going to be disappointed. So, at the end of the day, honestly, I'm just going to stop watching these bad Netflix movies. I may not stop, but I will try my very best because they don't deserve my views. They also don't deserve my money, Netflix. I should be paying $27 for your shit, but I digress. I digress. Okay. Guys, that's going to wrap up the episode for this week. We're just going to go into our last segment, which is Watch List, where we talk about movies and TV shows that we're excited to see that's coming out soon. For me, I think it would be Mickey 17, because that's finally out, thank God. I'm so happy Rob Pattinson is back in theaters. Also, Naomi Aki is an actress that I love very dearly. She was in Blink twice. So I'm really excited about that. Also, what else am I excited to watch? I was gonna say Full Metal Alchemist, but I actually finished watching that recently. I rewatched it because also nostalgic, and my brother and I were talking about it because we talk about anime. So I recently finished watching that, and I would say also The Parenting. I think it's a movie coming out on Max. I would say HBO, but it's Max, and I think
You're
it's
talking about, you're talking about like movies that haven't come out yet, right?
you could talk about new movies. You could talk about something that is out now, like The Pit on Max. That's out right now. I have to catch up on that
I
because.
just rewatched Paddington 1 and 2 because I need to see Paddington 3 before it's out of theaters. Gonna go see that this week. I just saw Mickey 17.
Mm. What'd you think?
Bong Joon-ho's new movie. That I really liked. Bong Joon-ho has like two types of movies. He has gritty social commentary like Parasite, Memories of Murder. And then he has more mainstream kind of action sci-fi like Snowpiercer, The Host, and now Mickey 17. I guess Okja could we consider that too. So it's definitely, not like a movie that's going to win, a bunch of social awards, but it's a really cool sci-fi movie that's done really well. Especially Robert Pattinson's performance, of course. It's one of those movies that I can't really talk about without spoiling everything. It's a movie that's better to go into blind and like don't even look up like any plot details so that you aren't spoiled because I wouldn't even call them twists, but just like things that happen in the movie where it's like, oh, that's really cool. My favorite part, I will say, was Mark Ruffalo's performance as he's like the leader of like the space colony. It's based on a book. I don't know if this is in the book or not, but Mark Ruffalo is very clearly doing a fusion of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Like it is so clear that is what he is doing. Like the people are wearing like Donald Trump type hats that say one and only. He's doing like Donald Trump poses. But he also has like a pro-natalist, like let's go to space, let's go to Mars, like let's repopulate, He's very clearly channeling both Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and I think that was really fun to watch. That he, to me, was like the best part of that movie was whatever Mark Ruffalo had going on as the villain.
Love that. Also, I love when a movie comes out and the best advice people give me is like going blind. It's like, thank you. Because that's what I want to do. I don't need the trailer. Yeah. I don't want to know what's going on. I want to be surprised when I sit down.
I didn't know what was going on. I purposely didn't like look up anything because I was like, it's a Bong Joon-ho movie. I'd rather be surprised. And it is very much more so an action sci-fi movie. I mean, he already won his Best Picture Oscar. It kind of seemed to me like after he put his heart and soul into Parasite, he wanted to do something a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because this is like, it was like big budget sci-fi. I think that's also what, made me distasteful for Uglies. Because I just saw Mickey 17 and that was like a futuristic dystopian sci-fi done really well. And then I watched this Uglies. It's just like, this is the opposite of that. This is just like stupid.
I love it when an auteur gets the chance to like have fun with their movies because I don't want you to make sad films forever. I want you to like kiki and laugh. Like I want there to be joy in your life. Are you looking through your letterbox right now?
Yeah, no, I'm actually looking up a list of movies that are coming out this year. So there's some movies like the Minecraft movies coming out. The Snow White movie that I'm not going to see is coming out.
Ooh, Rachel Zegler, girl. You need to go to Antarctica or something.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know, nothing really that like really sticks out to me. But the best movies are movies that you don't hear about before they come out. The best movies are the ones that like release and then everyone's like, wait, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So what else? How to Train Your Dragon live action remake?
No.
Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 7.
I'm happy for Jonathan Bailey, but I will not be seated for that.
Superman, new Superman, Smurfs.
I feel like I have to wait on Superman.
Happy Gilmore 2. Like,
I don't
Freaky
think we need
Friday.
to see that.
Freaky Friday 2 could be fun. That's coming out in like the summer.
That's coming out this year?
Yeah, Freaky Friday 2 is coming out this summer. But
Oh,
where is Princess Diaries 3?
they
Did
just got a director.
they announced that movie like 8 years ago.
I think Adele Lim, who also worked on Crazy Rich Asians, is a director, but there's no script yet.
There's a lot of franchise movies coming out this year. There's Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Zootopia 2, Now You See Me 3.
When does Zootopia come out?
November. It's Disney's November movie this year.
No, when did the first
Oh,
Zootopia come out?
2016.
Oh.
See,
Okay.
Disney knows how to like wait for a sequel. Disney has always been good at that, where they like wait for a really long time for a sequel. So by the time it comes out, people are like, "Oh, wait, I do want to see that." Like Moana 2, they waited 8 years.
Oh, 8 years?
Yeah,
Oh my
I've been
god.
saying like Moana. So like every time a Moana movie comes out, Donald Trump gets elected.
Don't say that. Don't
It
say
only happened
that.
twice, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That
The,
kind of
the
makes me feel
only
old.
the only thing I'm really excited for this year, I guess, is Wicked 2,
Yes.
Wicked Act 2,
I
whatever they end up
can't
calling.
wait. I can't wait for people to watch Wicked 2 and then find out what's going to happen because I love that musical. It's
Oh, I
crazy.
guess Avatar 3 is also coming out, but
Wait, what part 3?
Avatar 3.
Oh. Zoe Saldana is going to be back on our screens. How crazy. She
Yeah,
never rests.
there's a lot of like franchise sequels. Oh, the Lilo and Stitch movie too, also.
Oh, I saw the trailer for that today. I will be skipping that. Yes, I'm sorry.
The only live action Disney movie I would want to see is Ratatouille.
Is
If they did a
that
live action
Disney?
Ratatouille, yeah, that was a
Okay.
Pixar movie. If they did a live action Ratatouille, I would watch that. But that's the only one I care about.
Who would you cast for the human leads?
Timothy Chalamet.
No.
That's as far as I got.
I
Timothy
would
Chalamet as the chef.
no. I would cast the guy who plays SpongeBob or Jack Quaid.
But Timothy Chalamet's French. They need a French guy.
Is he French?
Well, his name is French, and that's all they need. All they need is him to like look French.
No, I don't know about that.
It says that he is an American and French actor,
Well,
but he was born and raised in New York.
yes.
So I don't know where the French part comes in.
I
Whatever. Getting
I'm-
way off track here.
they can cast him in it. It's fine. I actually like Timothy Chalamet. Like nothing against him. He's in a lot of things, but I've never watched anything that he's done that I didn't like. I'll say that. Like I remember watching, I think it was Wonka, and I saw it with my family. And back in my head, I was like, "This is just another remake. I'm not gonna care." At the end, I cried. Me and my sister, we looked at each other. We were crying. I was actually surprised.
I like the musical numbers in Wonka.
I mean,
I don't know.
he can sing. You know, he hit his notes.
Yeah, he knows what to do.
Yes.
Love
I
that
mean,
boy.
we appreciate that. We appreciate that. Someone who puts in the work. Yes. Okay. Evasive, where can people find you if they wanted to find you on the internet somewhere?
I'm evasive on everything. Chances are, if you listen to this podcast, you might know me already. I'm on YouTube. That's my big thing. I'm a YouTuber. So look up Evasive on YouTube.
Awesome. Guys, check out Evasive on YouTube. Go ahead, subscribe to the Patreon, follow them on all social medias. Guys, don't forget to follow us on all of our socials, on Twitter, Instagram, subscribe to the Patreon, subscribe to the YouTube, follow us on Blue Sky as well. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about your new favorite podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I am Monica. I will see you guys next week with a new topic, new guests, like we do every single week. Bye!